All right, good evening, YouTube, or good morning when most of you probably wind up seeing this. But I'm going to try to get this done quickly. Um, as I know if I did a live stream, we'd be on here all day, and I don't have time for that. um, but the artist formerly known as Midwest Prepper, also known to you, all you new guys, as Guns Coast to Coast. Did two videos today. He's always putting out 4 or 5 at a time. Then goes weeks with being UA. Um, Asking questions he didn't understand, or if I know him like I think I know him, he's asking more for his own uh, edification of his own thesis more than anything. But he had several things about silver that he was talking about, and I'll post the links into the description box for everybody to go watch if you haven't watched. Um, it's all, good stuff. No complaints, right? Um, so I'm going to try to answer these as best I can. I've answered most of them in the past in other videos. It's just not something I emphasize. Um, it's just a small portion of what we do on here, right? This is not a AKA silver channel, so um, we do know some of the channels and some of the people that are talking about what he's talking about, I believe. But from what I said from my first video, day one, when I first got my first 10 ounces, we're getting out of the system, avoiding the system um, as a corrupt, immoral system that it is. That was a number one. As to finding something that was alternative and something that didn't prey on the leverage of other people. Specifically, how the banks levered people against each other, and mandatory withdrawals, mandatory savings plans, mandatory retirement plans, 401ks, all these other things that are propping up the stock market and mandating your dollars going into that system. Was primarily a number one. That day one we did that video, why I got into silver. Secondary was the imminent demise of fiat currency will one day occur. Little did we know we'd be here this day where they're going to get everybody on a digital currency, and it's just going to get worse. Overall, the inflation and everything else. He threw some numbers around and stuff. Guns did about the percentages you can make in the stock market and everything, and all that's transparent to me. I don't care. I started ignoring it when I got my first silver because it is immoral in my eyes. It's a low level form of gambling. It's actually worse because people don't know what they're getting into. In my mind, especially if people are just throwing it into their 401k or whatever and letting it ride, and it's going into whatever they don't know. In my mind, if you try to manage it yourself and do your own stocks, it takes a lot of study. You just don't go out there and don't listen to Jim Cramer. If anybody knows what inverse Jim Cramer is, check that out. He's continuously being more wrong than right, or he's telling you what to be selling or whatever you want to say. And I watched him a lot back in 05 time frame, before the 07, 08 thing. 07 rolled around, and I was like, I'm out. I actually made some money on U.S. Steel and Caterpillar at one time doing that. So I had exposure into those things, and I did those things, and I had a 401 or a Roth IRA, etc. The tax deferred sweetener they put on everything, all that stuff. In my mind, it's all a trap because one day the window's going to close. In my mind, it doesn't mean I'm right, but that's in my mind, and that's in my the way things have progressed to this point. You look at Social Security and other things, and all your retirement accounts are exposed to the stock markets. And they want to force you more and more. That's why the stock markets went up so much. Everybody's like, look at the stock market; it never goes down. It's because everybody's forced into it, and I'd rather not participate because one day the rug is going to get pulled. Maybe not in my lifetime. Um, this is not meant to be wealthy anyway, to make you rich. This is just meant to pass on to somebody else without interference from any of the third party. Really, in my original intent, that's what it was really all about. And since then, I think I've doubled down. um, as progress went on the last few years, pre-COVID, but between 13 and 18 in particular, silver gold ratio played a big part in not getting as involved in gold as I probably should have. The few ounces, or not even ounces, fractional ounces that I have, were just as a means of storing a little bit of wealth and having the ability to carry a little bit, should the event be needed. As I've, who was it? I think it was another chat even today said it, and I've said it in other places. Like, that's how you buy border guards. Border guards. That's what I've got a Chinese panda somewhere. That's how you get through checkpoints and stuff, potentially, maybe, if you're lucky. But I don't have very much of that, and I probably should have more. I probably should have redirected, but the gold to silver ratio dictated, in my mind, to do otherwise. So that's one reason it's so heavy that way. What else was Guns talking about? So many of the things you talked about, Guns, I was like, I don't care. I jumped off that ship over 10 years ago. Really, when the first financial crisis hit, or not financial, I mean, there's been many, many financial crises in our lifetime, but when the housing market crash hit in 2008 is when I really started jumping off the bandwagon of anything related to the markets. Yeah, sure, I could have left my money in there and I could have continued to double down, and there would be something in there. I still can't touch it for another 10 years. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then, or more, I think. I mean, I think you still get taxed at a certain point. If you could take a minimum withdrawal, but whatever the rules are, it's many years away, right? So you got that all locked up, and that's all getting sucked into the stock market, and they're using it as leverage in these hedge funds and all these market equities accounts, and all these people in the stock market are just leveraging your money for decades while you can't touch it in those types of accounts. It's unfathomable to me. I don't understand. I just can't do it. I just couldn't do it anymore because it's just a matter of you have no control, and so that was a big deal to me. And as we move forward here, and I said it in my 2019 prepping video when we did our series in 2019, timely as it was, on prepping about store of value, store of wealth, right? And it's not like I've got a ton of silver. It's a savings account, essentially, when it all works out. And it's something I can hand to somebody else without any other body interference. There's other things you can get involved in, but usually taxes are involved. There are potentials for taxes to be involved here if you sell a lot at one time and whatnot, but if you can also do it in a way that's not a worry. But when you look at it and over the years and you look at it now, this stuff is going away. We're, in my mind, in a historical precedent, going into a point of transition. This digital currency, it's just like when they revalued gold the last 3 times. Every time they've revalued gold, those things have went up in value because they can't keep these things valued when they don't have anything, when they're nothing. And when they're digital, they're going to be even less than nothing. And that's coming. So having these things outside the system is completely, probably 90% of the reason I do what I do. I think I said it in another video, in that goals video. It's a contrarian viewpoint. It's totally contrarian. It totally doesn't make sense in the investor mindset. It's not an investment. Um, as far as the prepper side, yeah, you can't eat it or anything. And I said this in the 2019 video as well, talking about, you know, buying your things week to week and doing your things. Like at a certain point, you've got how much water, how much canned goods, how much ammo. Everybody loves this one. Can you really store? I mean, equivalency, that is about equivalent value right now, even in the past. Those have always been kind of a box to an ounce of silver. That's pretty equivalent for the better part of 30 years. If you're going to run out of space. In actuality, these go bad. At eventual, they have a time stamp. At some point, they will not function. If you want to talk, people talk about, well, I'll trade my rounds and my bullets, and in reality, some brass might do you better, or even if you've got the storage, bullets, just having the bullets, not the components, can be used as a currency. Anything can be used as a currency as long as it maintains its value and it is durable. It maintains it's there. It's not going to go away. It doesn't perish like food. Food's not a good currency. It's a good barter item, but it's not a currency. These things were made into currency for a reason. And we have been raised for 50 years plus, going on 100, really, ever since the 33 gold window, the Roosevelt decree, or whatever you want to call it. Ever since that, we have lost our mindset about what real value is. We've totally been warped by the banks. This is me preaching, I guess, a little bit. It's getting off Gunn's topic, but this is kind of why it is that I think the way I think. And it is contrarian viewpoint because we are totally, and bankers rule the world. How many times have you heard that? If you believe bankers rule the world and you're not in silver or gold, I don't understand. Granted, the bankers give value in silver a value too, but you still hold it and it's something they can't take away from you. Versus the paper and the digital stuff. And it's more and more of it's digital. There's so little paper out there, it's not even funny. It's like $2 trillion in paper. It's like nothing. If everybody watching Guns Coast to Coast videos went and emptied their bank account, that's probably enough to run the banks. Because he's got a lot of viewers. The system is fragile. It's broken. It doesn't work for us. It doesn't work properly. And do what you got to do to function outside of it. Have all the things. It's always been the case. Don't think this is going to make you wealthy, but it will help you survive and get through whatever's coming. It might not be in our lifetime, but I believe, it will. I mean, look at what's going on around us. So that's the way I think. And when you get things like this in the mail, like this is a sure sign of impending. This is like people getting those home mortgage loans in the mail, like all these offers back in 2008. Flexible terms, $500K, like insane amounts of money that they're offering people. I think this is a business portfolio deal. And it's like, oh, here's $500,000 because it's not real. It's not functionally real wealth. If you can quickly transfer any cash you have to something that has value, do it. It doesn't have to be silver, but this is what I have access to. I can store and I can manage. I was involved in rental properties for over a decade. That didn't work out so well for me. Even though I bought originally back in 2000, this was a pretty good market. It's just you have to know really good timing, and if you're able to hold. There comes a certain point to where you can't hold certain things. So we had to get out. Rental properties and land and have value, no doubt. And that's something you can always use, and we've talked about that on here before too. Nothing wrong with owning land if you can get it. You do have to pay taxes on it. That's the only thing. And you can't quickly portal it. You can't take it somewhere else and you can't quickly give it to somebody else. It takes a handover of, well, a paper deed. The government says you have to have a paper deed to show your ownership. Those things aren't done quickly. So land with all its benefits, and it's yours, and you can grow on it. If you can produce on it, do it. To buy land and just hold it, just to sit there, I would say that's not a good strategy. I would say if you are looking at buying something, make it profitable somehow. Obviously, rental property is a whole different thing as far as value, and you can profit or maintain, pay off your mortgage with it or whatever, and move forward. Sure, but just letting it sit there is, I think, when you can buy the equivalent and not pay taxes, is a huge difference. But I don't know if I answered all the questions or answered all the comments. I think it was Joe Primal that talked about his rental lands, which is great. And the thing is, the real estate market is just as propped up as the stock market now. What happened in '08, they tried to learn from it. Why this last round hasn't popped because the interest rate increase is beyond me. So if you can sell, maybe if you could have sold 2 years ago, maybe would have been the prime time. What was it? Was it a year ago? Maybe been the prime time. I can't remember. Again, that's one of those things I haven't really been paying real attention to. But the interest rates are really hurting people, and they're making it impossible to buy, especially if you're younger. But as we say, YouTube, do all the things, prep hard, live free. Maybe Guns got what he wanted out of this. I don't know. You guys have a good day.